Genesis chapter 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Verse 2. And Sarai said unto Abraham, Behold now, Jehovah hath restrained me from bearing. Go in, I pray thee, unto thy handmaid. It may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkens to the voice of Sarai. Verse 3. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her handmaid, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife. Verse 4. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Verse 5. And Sarai said unto Abraham, My wrong be upon thee. I give my handmaid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Jehovah judged between me and thee. Verse 6. But Abraham said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand, to do her that which is good in thine eyes. And Sarai dealt hardly with her, and she fled from her face. Verse 7. And the angel of Jehovah found her by a fountains of waters in the wilderness, by the fountains in the way to Zoar. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's handmaid, whence come thou, and whither goest thou? And she said, I am fleeing from the face of my mistress Sarai. Verse 9. And the angel of Jehovah said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. Verse 10. And the angel of Jehovah said unto her, I will greatly multiply thy seed, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. Verse 11. And the angel of Jehovah said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Ismael, because Jehovah hath heard thy affliction. Verse 12. And he shall be a wild ash among men. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hands against him, and he shall dwell over against all his brethren. Verse 13. And she called the name of Jehovah that spake unto her, Thou art a God that seeth. For she said, I have even heard look after him that saith me. Verse 14. Wherefore the well was called Berlahai-roi, behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Verse 15. And Hagar bare Abraham a son, and Abraham called the name of his son, whom Hagar bare, Ismael. Verse 16. And Abraham was 86 years old, when Hagar bare Ismael to Abraham. Genesis chapter 17, verse 1. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Verse 2. Then I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly increase your numbers. Verse 3. Abram fell face down, and God said to him. Verse 4. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Verse 5. No longer will you be called Abram, but your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. Verse 6. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. Verse 7. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generation to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. Verse 8. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possessions to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Verse 9. Then God said to Abraham, As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you for the generations to come. Verse 10. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Verse 11. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the signs of the covenant between me and you. Verse 12. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring. Verse 13. Whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Verse 14. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Verse 15. God also said to Abraham, As for Sarah your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. Verse 16. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Verse 17. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? Verse 18. And Abraham said to God, If only Ismael might live under your blessing. Verse 19. Then God said, Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. Verse 20. And as for Ismael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. Verse 21. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear you by these times next year. Verse 22. When he had finished speaking with Abram, God went up from him. Verse 23. On that very day Abraham took his son Ismael and all those born in his household or bought with his money, every male in his household, and circumcised them, as God told him. Verse 24. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised. Verse 25. And his son Ismael was 13. Verse 26. Abraham and his son Ismael were both circumcised on that very day. Verse 27. And every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his household or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. Genesis chapter 18, verse 1. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. Verse 2. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. Verse 3. He said, If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, Do not pass your servant by. Verse 4. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Verse 5. Let me get you something to eat, so you can be refreshed and then go on your way. Now that you have come to your servant, very well, they answered. Do as you say. Verse 6. So Abram hurried into the tent of Zara. Quick, he said, get resias of the finished flours and knead it and bake some bread. Verse 7. Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice, tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. Verse 8. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared, and set this before them. While they eat, he stood near them under a tree. Verse 9. Where is your wife Sarah? They asked him. There, in the tent, he said. Verse 10. Then one of them said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Verse 11. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. Verse 12. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? Verse 13. Then the Lord said to Abram, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? Verse 14. Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Verse 15. Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. Verse 16. When the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Verse 17. Then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham's what I am about to do? Verse 18. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. Verse 19. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham's what he has promised him. Verse 20. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous. Verse 21. That I will go down and see if they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. Verse 22. The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Verse 23. Then Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? 24. What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Verse 25. Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? Verse 26. The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Verse 27. Then Abram spoke up again. Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes. Verse 28. What if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Verse 29. Once again he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Verse 30. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Verse 31. Abraham said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. 31. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. Verse 33. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home.